It's only adversity until if you think it's adversity.
If you think something's against you, something's building up against you, you're going to use that, against you. These athletes don't know the adversity that they're going through.
This is going to hurt. It's time for the Suffering Podcast.
We had twins. Those were our first.
Okay. So Jake is a twin?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the other twin she's
going to play D1 ball.
She's going to D1 ball. Wow. That's a interesting little wrinkle. But you know what? I have seen that before. I have seen that.
That's why we haven't had Todd in here, because he's always involved with Jake in Special Olympics and with his daughter in.
Two of them. They're not. At least now they're on the same team. Thank God.
He's always coaching something and going. I have to go to this game and have to go to that game.
They're elite travel, so that's
that's crazy.
What was that conversation like with your wife?
So she just gave birth, and the head of neonatal delivered them, and they worked 24 hours. So the next doctor came in. It was a female Indian, and she said, "I sent your son's blood out to be tested." And I'm like, "For what?" She goes, "For Down syndrome." What do you mean? Well, he has some of the things, the almond-shaped eyes, the simian crease in the hand, the tongue licking, the tongue thrusting. She goes, a lot of babies do that, So 3 days we had to wait. That was a long 3 days.
I'm sure.
And I'm walking in with the two carriers to take the kids home, and the head of neonatal pulled me aside. He goes, "I need to talk to you too." And I knew right as soon as he said it. It's funny. I accepted it right there. It took my wife a little longer.
Did she go through any type of postpartum depression because of it?
Or just a woe is me?
No, not so much that. But it was also, they were preemies. They never slept at the same time. So it was like 24/7, So we were both so burnt out. And I actually took 2 months off. I prayed to go back to work.
Now, hey, Chief, could I come back tomorrow?
Yeah.
After the birth of your children, was it another discussion? Did you have any other children?
Yeah, we have a 15-year-old.
So you chose to do it again, going through possibly the same stressors. I don't know what the genetic markers are. Is if you have one Down syndrome child, is it a higher risk for another one?
No.
It's totally random.
I think it's like 25 million to 1 to have 2 with Downs. But we did meet a couple when I think they were like 3 or 4. We went to Point Pleasant to Jenkinson's and saw a young boy, probably about 15. And he was thin and muscular, which, you're used to Downs because of the throat, slow thyroids, that they're heavy set. Mm. And we're like, wow, that's great. Jake, Jake could be like this boy. And we see him going on rides and stuff. And then we see a little girl with Downs in a cart, whatever, stroller. But she was, like 6 or 7. So we're like, nah, they can't be together. And then the two walked up to each other. So we talked to them for a while. And they waited 8 years. And like I said, it's 25 million to 1.
Wow.
That's a
better chance of hitting the lottery.
And she was this one was on a feeding tube for life because her stomach wasn't connected to her.
But Jake is fully functional.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And
he's a jack little bastard.
What's up with
you? Got to see his son. His son is jacked. He's a swimmer in Special Olympics, all that.
I know we're talking specifically about Down syndrome right now, but my cousin had this. He was the strongest individual. I mean, strong. Where he'd come in and we'd wrestle because
they used to say our strength.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
But he would come in and wrestle. He was a little bit older than me, but he would come in and wrestle, and it wasn't even a challenge for him. It really wasn't even a challenge, and he would laugh. I mean, laugh and call me every name in a book, but just is that? I don't know if that's a marker of Down syndrome. I really don't.
I think a lot of it is they don't have, like in our minds, we don't want to hurt anybody.
Mm.
So we have those limitations. I think they lack some of those.
Okay.
Plus, it's like acceptance to them. They see everybody breaking chops, so they start breaking chops.
Oh, I love their personality.
Oh, it's fantastic. It is.
You cannot walk away from a child with Down syndrome without smiling. It's almost impossible.
So I go to
anybody with intellectual disabilities. You know, I'm not. We're not just going to put this on Down syndrome. Anybody with intellectual disabilities, you cannot walk away from one of those people without having a smile on your face.
even the nonverbals are little wise asses.
Yeah.
You know, the autistic ones, because 50% of them are nonverbal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But just you can see it in their eyes and their hand gestures, and you know they'll pull pranks on each other. And
I imagine when you get together for the Special Olympics events, I imagine that's just a terror.
And you get to know all the other kids around the state too.
Yeah.
We have the largest swim team. I think it's like 34 swimmers.
Well, what do we have? 35,000 athletes in New Jersey.
Probably just under that now.
Yeah.
34,000.
About 35,000 athletes in New Jersey.
Well,
When I started, I think it was 8.
Yeah.
Well, how did you get Jake involved in sports? Was that just something that you were involved in as a kid, or did you see something in him that brought something out?
Well, he's competitive because his twin sister, you know, she would bet you on who could get her pajama on faster or who could eat her cereal faster. You know, everything was a competition. And his coordination from when he was very young is like he could throw a ball straight.
Yeah.
And he's a trip.
See, and that's the thing right there. See, when Todd was just talking about his son, couldn't even get the words out, and a smile came on his face. That's what's so special about Special Olympics.
Yeah.
I have long said that sports in general, for young people, there's something that it teaches them so far beyond the athletic act itself. It teaches them teamwork. It teaches them how to win. It teaches them how to lose. And that's on down the line.
It teaches them patience. It teaches them, and you know, you don't think that with kids with disabilities, but you'd be amazed at, you know, you do an 8-hour friggin' meet, and they're good all day long.
I can't even. My kids wrestled one year, and sitting through those wrestling matches was mind-numbing. Just 8 hours, and they're wrestling for 3 minutes.
See, I'm fortunate because with the swim, I help coach, and I do the medals presentation at the meets. So I'm busy all day. The parents up in those bleachers, it's got to be 30 degrees hotter up there.
Oh, yeah.
On one meet, I was
crazy.
up there. I'm like, I got to go outside. So God bless the parents that'll sit through that stuff.
Well, has having a child with special needs put a strain on your relationship with your wife at all? Any more so than having children in general?
No, but also my wife travels most of the time with my daughters because she was a D1 player. So she coaches them.
So that's where your kids get their athleticism.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, it's definitely not you.
If they want to steal cars or something, I can help them out.
I've seen you walk. You can't put one foot in front of the other sometimes.
But yeah, I think it's 85% of people with a child with a disability end up divorced.
Well,
I'm sure
it's a tough life.
I'm sure it's got to be
It
a
does.
strain. Yeah.
You know, and Jake's high functioning. So,
Yeah, exactly.
if
I'm
you
going
have
to
a
say
child
one of the lower functioning people. It's got to be. It's got to be a
and we
strain.
deal with them all the time.
And we have a friend of the show, Derek.
Yes.
His son is nonverbal. You know, and I know it puts a strain on him every day.
Oh, absolutely.
And he's a touring musician.
He's a touring musician. You know, and you know he leaves his son home with not even his mother, with Derek's fiance, which
Does
is
he play with the Nerds?
No, he's not.
Because one of the guys from the Nerds, his son is autistic.
Don't ever eat the Pop-Tarts on stage, because I used to bounce for them when I was working in the club.
Nerds.
And I snuck one. They're jalapeno flavored Pop-Tarts. They're disgusting.
No,
Is it the singer?
no, a friend of ours is a guitar player from Overkill, thrash metal band. He's got a nonverbal son, and like Kevin said, he's a world traveling musician. You know, and
His girlfriend is a saint.
his girlfriend isn't the birth mother of the child, and when he goes on tour,
She takes care of it.
she takes care of him.
God
And
bless her.
it's crazy.
And Derek he's got cerebral palsy. Young Derek. He's got cerebral palsy and he's got autism.
Yeah.
And he's nonverbal.
The cerebral palsy is a lot of work.
Yeah.
Well, what is
And
Jake's
he just broke his hip too.
Yeah.
So you know, if you're listening, Derek, get better, buddy.
what is Jake's mental age?
Well, I always joke he's got a bunch of things I don't have. He makes the honor roll, 6-pack abs, something else I can't say. You didn't get that from the Irish side.
Good for him. Good for him. See,
That's why
the Lord always makes up. There's
There's your
balance.
compensation.
There's balance.
compensation.
But if you were to guess, like where does he sit mentally as far as age group?
I don't know. It's tough to say. He
Yeah.
can read pretty well.
Yeah.
His writing's decent. I've seen cops that have worse.
Doctors that have worse.
Read accident reports from the inner city, which
Yeah,
I used to have to do. It was awful.
Maybe 10 or 12.
So he's fairly high functioning
Yeah, on a
grand scale.
on a grand scale, he's very high functioning.
You said he's 18, and he's about to become an adult. Do you ever worry about having a physical adult with the mindset? Because I have a 12-year-old right now. It's about to turn 13, and they think they know everything.
Of course you are. You're bulletproof till you're about 25.
They think they know everything. Is that the case with him? Because
On some things,
there's
yes.
some things I want to put his head through the wall.
I'm not going to lie. He might be disabled. I still want to put his head through a wall.
Does he push it to the limits every once in a while?
Oh, absolutely. This weekend.
So
Thought his mother was going to kill him.
do you ever worry about having the body of an adult and the mind of a teenager, of a preteen?
Well, he's small, so that's the only saving grace.
Yeah.
If he was my size with his build, I couldn't take him.
Oh, yeah.
I'd have to hit him from behind.
Well,
I'm telling you, you got to see Jake. Jake is jacked up.
Oh, he
He
works
really
out
is.
twice a day.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Now, what shot does he have at? I mean, like my cousin has a job, and it's not a, he's not going to ever be a CEO of a corporation, but he's got a job that's fulfilling to him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're usually very good at it.
Yeah.
So there's a story, a police story. I used to get coffee, and I hate Quick Check. I'm sorry, Quick Check, but I hate your coffee. All right, but the Quick Check hires people with special needs to work the coffee bar. And her name was Amy. Her dad was a retired Newark cop. And every time I go in there, she would always say, "What's new?" Like, that's what she do. And she slurred, so it sounded like snoo, but it was the cutest thing in the world to me. I would go in there to get my coffee there, even though I hated damn coffee.
Just to see her.
Just to see her, because she made my day brighter. Here's my thinking. She was probably making, at the time, $7, $8 an hour. She dressed herself, showed up for work on time. Here we are, police officers making $100,000 a year. And there are days we go to work miserable. And I used to tell the guys in the station this.
Bitching, moaning.
Yeah.
Oh, my God, I can't believe I got to go. And she couldn't be happier.
They look forward to it.
Getting up and going to work.
It was her purpose.
Yeah.
I mean, and she
My son
loved
loves
it.
going to school. I'm like, that's not much help.
I
That's
say it all
definitely your mother.
I say that all the time. I mean, you see the outlook on these, these Special Olympics athletes, and sometimes you wake up in the morning. Sometimes you're like, I don't feel like doing it. They look forward to every moment of every day. I mean, it's unbelievable.
But that definitely hurt him during.
During COVID, during the pandemic, yeah.
No COVID.
That perspective,
I'm learning. It's my first day here.
that perspective meant a lot to me. And people in the station were kind of cruel. And people in my headquarters were a little cruel, like, you're just going to laugh. I'm like, no, I'm envious of her. Like, I am so envious of her because she is thrilled to do her job, and there's days I don't want to even come to work.
But is that like a shallow personality type person? That looks down on these people.
Well, you saw it. You see it from cops when they
See it all the
start till
time.
they finish.
Yeah.
You get jaded after all those years, and it just, I don't know.
But I say, I'll never forget it. 1996, the winter of '96. I had just gotten out of the academy. I was working.
Snowstorm.
Yeah, I was no.
Blizzard.
Yeah, oh yeah. I went through the academy in that blizzard. That winter, they came up to me and said, "We're having the local winter games up at Camp Go Mountain. Do you want to go up and give medals out? The local Special Olympics games. Do you want to give medals out?" To me, I'm like, it's a day out of the office. Let's go. The first time I put a medal on a Special Olympics athlete, and we call it in Special Olympics, you're hooked.
Yeah.
First time I put a medal on a kid, I said, that's it, I'm hooked. I am hooked, and I volunteer for everything.
Well, we always said that if you take somebody to opening ceremonies
Forget it.
and they don't cry, something wrong with them.
Cry every time. The
Yeah,
summer
this is-
games, opening ceremonies down at College in New Jersey,
It is the most
heart-wrenching.
fulfilling.
Oh.
So we go on the football field and we do 2 lines, and they bring each county in one at a time.
Generally with an honor guard in front of them.
And the
Rutgers football players.
Yep. And
then
Boy Scouts.
then each count. Yeah. Yep. And then the counties.
And they come in between you and they just high five you. They hug you. The coaches that are with them thank you. And, you know, you'll see guys just turn around, wipe their eyes, turn back.
Oh, yeah.
You can't walk away not touched.
So there's a topic that I want to get into because there was a movie made about the Special Olympics.
Which one?
The Ringer.
It's a great movie.
Okay.
Funny movie.
So
that's when my third daughter was born.
I'm sitting back watching this and I'm laughing. And I had no idea Special Olympics endorsed this. I found out from Mike afterwards.
I met the kid, the one guy.
Oh,
He was
Jimmy?
funny. The roommate. Don't touch my stuff.
That's him. That's when the fuck did we get ice cream? That kid.
Yes.
That kid. So that was an ad lib. That was him, and he was on Jackass a couple times. Like he was in a couple of the movies. Aged very quickly, but he was in a couple of the movies. That kid, brilliant. I would love to get that kid in here.
That's his personality, what you saw.
That's
not acting.
It took me a long time to watch that movie because I thought it was anti-Special Olympics until I heard that it was endorsed by Special
You
Olympics.
scratched
That's why
my
Then-
CD.
Then
it's only about this big.
You picked it up and you scratched it.
when
But
the fuck did we get ice cream?
so that movie, I felt very guilty about watching it in the beginning until I found out, like Mike said, Special Olympics did endorse it. But that movie, if you look at that movie and you take a step back from the comedy that's in it, it actually is doing what Special Olympics was set out to do. It's their mission is to change people's minds that these are athletes. These guys work hard. Like, this is no joke. You had an able-bodied person in Johnny Knoxville racing against people with special needs, and he was losing.
Yeah.
And he was a high school star.
Right, and that's the bottom line. And then Jimmy comes out and just cracks me up.
Mike's been in national games.
Oh yeah.
And I've been offered to go, but I've never gone because of having a special needs kid to leave my wife for 15 days.
It is one of the greatest experiences of my life.
But those are the top athletes.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I'd put them against half the college athletes.
Well, you know what I say all the time too. The will, I don't want to say the will to win, but the effort that these athletes put in there. If everybody in the United States put that effort into their job every day, we'd have a perfect country.
I'd like you guys to come one time to swim practice. There's a kid, Adam, has MS, and he basically has the use of both arms, but in the pool he can only use one, and it's 2 laps to warm up. He does his 2 laps. He pulls himself down, up and down with just one arm, facing the water. I actually, in the first year or so, I just stared at him because I'm waiting for him to drown. And the happiest kid in the world you'll ever meet. He has got more heart than anybody I've ever met in my life.
It's all about. So the whole reason we started this show is to talk about overcoming adversity, and that's adversity. And guess what? It's only adversity if you think it's adversity.
If you think something's against you, something's building up against you, you're going to use that, against you. These athletes don't know the adversity that they're going through.